Okay, so I'm a game producer. Oh, that's what I've been mainly doing. I have already roughly 40 games done with almost all platforms from AAA to mobile. Now I work with FakeFish. It's an indie developer from Turku, Finland. We focus on PC games, but we also have a couple of mobile titles as well. I have a relatively big topic here, but I can only talk about this from the perspective of an indie developer and how we have started to do this community-based game development with two titles. I'm going to talk you now, but first sort of like a short introduction about sort of our communities and tribalism. I wanted to add this slide here because it's always cool to start sort of like a lecture by saying that like the old Romans or in the ancient times. So historically, individualism is really relatively new topic. For example, way back, for example, 2,000 years ago, during the Roman Empire, they didn't understand. There was not even a word called individualism. Individual people were defined by the family where they came from, and from the neighborhood where they were. So saying that I'm just Kimmo Kari didn't mean anything. I would just be, if I would not say that I'm part of Kari family, I'm from Turku, then I started to mean something back in the days. Actually, word individualism as a word has been introduced in late 1930s, and it was actually first synonym to pejorative, so not a positive connotation. And now, as we probably all know, it's the sort of like the golden era of tribalism. If you go to internet, you will find a niche for almost everything. As stupid thing you can innovate, you will find from internet sort of like your tribe members. For example, here is just a funny statistic about how many metal bands there are per 100,000 people, and we seem to be here in a pretty red area. And for example, many of you probably has heard about the cult Pastafarism. So there is people who believe that or claim that God is a flying spaghetti monster, and it's a big thing in internet. And talking about monsters, it's now sort of like good bridge to my sort of like main beef of this speech. Back in the days, I think 7 years ago, when one of our lead developers started alone a game project, he found this sort of SCP Foundation. This is sort of like relatively big phenomenon nowadays in internet, have been there over a decade now, and it's like a hobby for skillful writers. They co-write and create monsters to a big database. They have now, I don't know, 5,000 or 10,000 monsters in their database, and that's strictly curated sort of like community, sort of like if you write bad description of anomaly or monster, it's not going to be on this site. And they have all kind of folklore and whatever things. It's a big sort of like community that you can dig into later, and there's also and it has spread also to China. There's also a big community of this in China, and sort of like our leader programmer Jonas Riikkonen actually built a game on top of these monsters because they are sort of like Creative Commons license, so you can use them. Just for fun, show you one sort of like video. They are mainly in written format, but then you have sort of like videos about the monsters, that the top 20 scariest monsters in SCP, blah blah blah. And this has 7 million views, so it's like pretty big community. Can we have sound?
1382 is a Red Sea Mark water buoy floating on the surface of Lake Michigan. All air and sea traffic must be redirected away from containment site. Although SCP-1382 has taken a fair amount of structural damage during its lifetime, it still stands tall, occasionally flashing out the SOS distress signal in Morse code in 10-second intervals. This mysterious buoy is anchored to a downed airliner lying deep beneath the surface of the water named Flight 441. This derelict aircraft contains the skeletal remains of 56 passengers and crew members who begin to animate, obtaining their natural body temperature of 37.0 degrees Celsius as registered by thermal imaging scanners, and assume into the crash position in their seats. After 13 seconds of activity, all instances of passengers turn to face SCP-1382. They remain in this position until SCP-1382 ceases its SOS, at which point they collapse and become inert. It has been reported that the passengers are distressed due to the accounts before the crash, as opposed to the crash itself, implying that every passenger is stuck in some kind of time loop.
Yep, so it's full of amazingly weird stuff. My favorite monster is actually IKEA. When you go in, you can never go out. There even lives a population inside that anomaly. But anyway, using these monsters, or just tiny part of the monsters that could fit a certain type of game mechanic, one of our programmers developed a game, and he actually first did a prototype, and he just for fun put it on some community sites like 4chan, Reddit, to have some feedback. But then he started to receive a lot of like 3D assets and a lot of like real contribution. So it ended up to be sort of like more like collaborative work. So he's like a sort of like open source guy. So he put all the source code to GitHub, and then this development of this game ended up being a co-development of 50 people, even though the programmer was sort of like alone in Finland, in Turku, but 50 other people were actively developing the game. And of course the result also ended up to be pretty scary and fun. It has chosen, when it was published in 2012, in top 50 list of new PC games in position 22. So really nice reviews, and also what helped to explode the game's popularity was also that when many YouTubers also found it and played it, and they post sort of like these funny videos where they are scared of the events in the game, and they got sort of like tens of millions views, this type of videos, and it ended up so that this game, without any marketing efforts, got more than 10 million downloads. So here is actually Actually, he didn't even have to make the game trailers himself. Here's one short trailer made by a fan.
So you chose to die here. Very well.
Yep.
Don't look afraid. Don't be afraid. This is a dream. The last dream you may ever have.
So now I switched the project that we are currently co-developing with community. It's a submarine game located in space, actually in one moon of Jupiter called Europa, and Europa has sea and has of course a lot of monsters and aliens, and this game differs quite a lot gameplay-wise to the previous game, and also it's that sense pretty different that from day one it has been also said to be sort of like a commercial product. So the previous game was totally free game, but this is open source, but still a commercial project. I will show you a short trailer about this game. Did it start? Show us again. So it's like FTL Apollo 13 Space Engineers type of game. It's sort of like a multiplayer co-op game where you need to manage a submarine. There are different sort of like roles in the sub, and even a traitor mode, and it's sort of like a highly modular game. If you want, you can build your submarine yourself, but if you build a submarine, then you need also to build the electricity system, and you can go really deep into that. There's even one hardcore fan that has built a computer out of the electricity system and played Tetris inside that game. So it's, you can go you can go pretty deep. And it's also this is this bloodthirsty clone character. There's really like a lot of this like funny and crazy things happening in the game as well. It's procedural. All the sort of like the levels are procedurally generated. A lot of physics and stuff. This is something that we hopefully end up releasing officially in next 6 months. But here's, if you're going to build the submarine, there is an editor for that, and there is now even an editor to build monsters as well. So the game is not yet officially launched, but it has already 100,000 downloads. It's like secretly in an open alpha build you can find from the developers sort of like personal website, and then the source code is in the GitHub. This is just a brief summary about the main features, and you know, this is just an example of the user interface. So it's pretty hardcore game, and it's also sort of like can be seen as a platform how you can create a very different type of game experience for yourself and your friends. It's funny to see how differently people play the game. And this is already what is happening. Even though the game is not yet launched, we have sort of like players and YouTubers like Creek2, who is like, I think usually on Fridays having a couple of beers with his friends, sort of like a role playing the game. They are VoIP on, and they are sort of like role playing it in a very funny way, and they are like, he posts for us like pretty popular videos, like almost 1 million views, and that's great. And at the moment we also have a forum where the sort of like the code development happens, and there is also sort of like thousands and thousands of posts of new ideas, features, and stuff like that. Compared to the previous game, I have to say that there is less people who are really sort of like hands-on developing the game. I think it's due to that it's much more complex game, so it takes a while to get familiar with the code base, and also that this is meant to be a commercial product as well. So probably everyone is not, willing to code free for someone else commercial project. But anyway, we have also really genius coders all over the world, also developing the game. There is also now a PvP mode available. We haven't ourselves developed sort of like PvP multiplayer, but the community has done it already. Yes, that I think I can say about this in such a short time, because this of course how to manage the community and the code development is a matter of a couple of PhD studies. so that's what I can tell in 15 minutes, just to scratching the surface. But thank you.
Thank you. We went over time a little bit, but I wanted to ask if someone wants to ask a question. At least 1 or 2 questions we could do.
Yes.
Mikael is in very good mood and very relaxed, so that's easy.
Yeah.
Hi, yes, very good speech there. I wanted to ask about the SCP. Have you seen much about it that they can play multiplayer on SCP? And if you have you thought about making the SCP multiplayer?
There are plenty of mods available. There are now people who are totally recoding the game. One is doing it to C++, one is porting that to Unity, and so forth. I have not myself found a PvP multiplayer game, and I think one of the reasons that it probably is not perhaps a good idea is that this game tries to be really scary, and it's sort of like the multiplayer might ruin the scariness of the game, because it's probably better that the AI is controlling the monsters.
I've seen some YouTuber game where I have seen some YouTuber play a multiplayer SCP that some of them are the SCP monster and some of the human army.
Yeah, there are also some other SCP themed games made, but probably it's not the mod to this game, I believe. We have also, of course, also in plans after we finish the submarine game to actually go back to the SCP and make a sequel to that, and probably add multiplayer there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.